WTWO's Beyond the Stands podcast is brought to you by Crow Equipment, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates. Here's your host, Rick Semler.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WTWO's Beyond the Stands. Of course, I'm your host, Rick Semler. I got a couple of special guests who don't live here in the area. One is from the area. It's not often I get pro athletes, major Division I college football players, but that's who's joining me today. First off, the hometown guy, Danny Etling, back in town. Danny, good to see you.
Yeah, nice to be here. Always fun to be back in town and catching up with the local going-ons.
And also, I mentioned another a guy who was a standout athlete in college. He's doing the football coaching now at Texas Tech. Is Lindsey Scott. Lindsey, nice to meet you today for the first time.
Nice to meet you as well. Also nice to be back in Terre Haute. It's my third time.
Yep.
Thankfully to Danny. I love it here. It feels like family. Feels like home.
Now, you don't hear that very often. People enjoy coming to Terre Haute, so I love to hear that, Lindsey. I got to start with you, Danny. The reason you're back in town, you're hosting your annual football camp. How important, you don't live here right now, but you're from here. How important is it to you every year to come back to host the Danny Etling football camp?
Yeah, I find it really important. It's this community is the one who raised me and got me to where I am. It's not just South, not just, my own family, but there's been so many people that have really, lifted me up and come support me. I know you just said you went and covered a game at LSU. I mean, there've been so many people who have supported me in this community. So to be able to give back to the Wabash Valley, that's something I really hold dear to my heart. And it was something I wanted to do when I was in high school. And I was like, went to a Steve Weatherford camp. I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, I would love to host one of these and kind of give back to this community and to these high school kids. And then when I got that opportunity, my dad helped make it happen, and all the local coaches and the support staff make it happen. So it's so important to me, and it's really been important to the guys that come back, the people I ask to come back with me. They're always people of really high character that I know would be great role models for the young men in our sports system. So to be able to just share those people that have been so influential in my life and that I have cared so much for has been a really fun experience for me to show them where I'm from and show my hometown of these great high character guys I bring back. One thing
I get a kick out of your camp, sometimes guys, they make it big, and you've made it big, and they hold these camps, but they don't do anything. They just show up, and it's a name there. That's the complete opposite of what you do. You're in your shorts, your T-shirt, you're out teaching, you hold questions for the guys. How important is it to not only be there, but be hands-on with them?
I think that's really important in all aspects of life, is just to be present, be where your feet are and have fun with it. And I love football, and I hope that that's what they can get out of it. Like, if I get a chance to go out there and do some football stuff and get some shorts on and run around and have fun in the heat and just, enjoy the aspect of playing football, then I'm going to do it. And, that's kind of what I do. So it's not so much me always getting to teach, it's me getting to have fun, but also I get to shed just a little bit of hopefully just giving them one thing to take away to help them on their season this year. And then on their journey beyond that, that's all I look for.
Now, I asked Danny, Lindsey, obviously you're not from here, but you come back here. It's your third time here. How much do you enjoy being a part of this camp, and what do you think of the camp?
I love it. I love being able to come back and kind of spread the knowledge and wealth that I've learned. I think there's something that's really special is when you kind of reflect back on your career and mine personally. You kind of think about it in great detail. You can kind of fill in the gaps to things that maybe now that you're older, you're realizing things that you're needing. So it feels very special to be able to kind of take my past experiences and hopefully fill those gaps for young players so they can have a much smoother transition than I had. Failures are important. Perseverance is important. Everyone's going to have it. But the more that we can share knowledge down the line to where maybe they can jump over that bridge instead of having to swim through that water, kind of means the world. You never know. The next NFL great, was in that camp today. So if I could have been a small percentage of their journey, then that's a blessing in itself.
You did a lot of camps growing up, Lindsey. How much do you remember the youth Lindsey going to those camps? And when you see those kids out there, do you remember those days of you doing that?
Oh, for sure. I remember I was at the Warwick Dunn camp down in Baton Rouge. And, I'm in a T-shirt that was a little too big for me and some cleats that didn't fit yet. I was a very small kid. But I kind of remember that. My parents always pushed me to kind of be in different sports, but that camp right there was the one that made me look to my dad and ask him if he could push me as hard as he can to be a great football player. I wanted to be Ward Dunn. I wanted to be a great NFL Hall of Famer. So, and then throughout my young career, going to different college camps, stuff like that, it's been able to kind of test yourself and compete. It kind of builds that fire every year as you grow. So now that I'm on the other end of it, I'm the one kind of help, stoke that fire. And then these young kids, it's a blessing, and it's something that I don't take for granted.
Now, Danny and I are from Indiana, so it's warm right now, but you're from Louisiana, so it's kind of cool for you right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool. The wind was blowing today. We had that outside AC, so I felt good. I was still breaking a good sweat, but standing outside, and it wasn't too bad.
A little different perspective. I got to thank our sponsors of the show, Crow Equipment Incorporated, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates, and Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, your 2018 American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning Building a Higher Standard Award winner for quality and reliability you can depend on. Call Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, 765-832-9401. Okay, Danny, you make me feel old. I've covered you since your freshman year, and here you are 30 years old now, so I do feel old. Covered you at Terre Haute South, Purdue, LSU, Patriots draft you. You played with the Falcons, the Jaguars, the Broncos. You're in the UFL now. I say all that. Just how amazing has your football career been?
I think and a lot of it you're just fighting through it, like not fighting through it, but you're in it. You're competing for jobs constantly. You're constantly moving. It's a grind. It's a lot of hard work, and you kind of lose sight of how thankful and grateful you should be throughout that journey to not only have those opportunities, but to continue to have success in them. So I'm extremely grateful. You always want to look back like, oh, I wish I would have played, or I wish I would have this. But in the grand scheme of it all, you're just so thankful to have those opportunities and to get to play this game and to see how far it's taken me. I mean, I've traveled the whole entire world. I feel like at this point in time, I've left the country for football. I've played in 43 states or whatever. I've been traveled to all those states to see it, and I can't believe that a kid from Terre Haute I didn't even know if I'd get a play in college or what if that would look like, to then getting to play with NFL greats and getting to Lambeau Leap and getting to win a Super Bowl. Like, those are historic things that I'm so thankful for, that I'm like, wow, I really should be grateful for my entire career so far up to this point.
You got to ask you started at Purdue and then transferred to LSU, and I'll ask both of you this question. Start with you, Danny. I mean, LSU is one of the top programs in the country. I mean, just a lot of people from here have not been to LSU. They've seen it on TV. I've had the privilege to go 3 times to cover you twice and been there with my family. I mean, it is another level. Whether you're outside tailgating or you're inside at the game, especially at night, there's nothing like Death Valley. Describe, Danny, to people what LSU and Death Valley football is like.
It's at a different level of just intense pressure. I mean, you're walking to class, and I remember I just started my first game, we won. And, people are stopping you on the way to class, like, hey, good job, keep it up, better keep it up. I'm like, you guys are being real friendly. I have people be coming up to me like, oh, you're so great. I'm like, you guys are friendly. And they're like, as long as you win. And there's that little extra layer of as long as you win. And I was like, oh, shoot, okay, there's a little bit, more to that. So it's a different level. I mean, I still remember my first ever this is a comparison that I always like to make, where when I was at Purdue, they did this pregame, you walk down to the fans and all this stuff. And I remember Purdue was just trying to start a tradition of doing that. So, they have little stanchions with the ropes. Well, I go out, they would do a pep rally in Mackey Stadium. And then this is a Division 1 major Big Ten program. We walk out of it, and as we're walking down the stanchion, there's one person there. And it's my dad, and he's clapping and going hey, well, go Boilers. And it was oh man. And then my dad and I always fist bump before every game, no matter what. And he's the only one. It's freezing cold. There's obviously they wanted more people to show up. And then I get in the locker room, people were like, man, did you see that only had one guy there? And I was like, yeah, just one guy. And then we get to Death Valley, and they walk down a hill. It's the hill walk. And there are 200-something thousand people there. And you can't see anything. They're lined up all the way up through the basketball stadium. They're on balconies, like they're everywhere, and you're walking down, the band is bringing you down, and I'm like, holy cow. And like through the thick of it all is my dad, like reaching out for a fist bump for my first ever game at Death Valley, and I gave him a fist bump. I'm like, man, we came a long way since Purdue, huh? He was like, yeah, well, you found me. So it was a different experience for sure.
I love it. And Lindsey, obviously you're well aware of Death Valley and LSU. I'm sure you went plenty of times as a fan before you went there and played. I had the chance to take my kids, and I knew a coach there, so they got to go down in the locker room and walk out like 30 minutes before a game to the lights, and they still talk about to this day just how magical it is. What is it like to run out in that field, the lights on, especially at night, to that fan base, and just what is everything like there?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen both sides of it. Growing up as a kid, going to the tailgates, you can step on any tailgate, and it's like they knew you their entire life. As long as you got an LSU jersey on, they'll give you some food. And then I think it was very special to, I think about that first home game, running out at night. I almost remember it like it was yesterday. Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, but we stay in the back and walk out last, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in the back, walk out last. And I could see it right now, the bands on both sides, the pyrotechs, the fires going up, everyone's cheering and yelling. And to be a little kid growing up in Baton Rouge and then be able to run out in that stadium on that turf, it's a very surreal moment. It's something that if you're a college football fan and you just love the game of football, it's something to go experience because it's truly loud, it's deafening. And it's an experience like none other.
I might make some people mad here. I've been to the Big House, Michigan. I've been to the Horseshoe, Ohio State. I've been to LSU, and I've been to the Swamp. LSU was the best stadium. I'll just say that. Of the four, they're all great in their own different ways, but LSU was certainly different. So we talk about the college career a little bit, Danny. Then 2018, you finish up at LSU, and you get drafted in the 7th round by the Patriots. I guess, did you ever imagine you would get drafted, let alone, by the Patriots who were in the middle of their dynasty then?
I definitely always envisioned being drafted. I remember it was, potentially not going to be drafted, and you never know, really. I mean, I'm answering questions in the media like, how do you feel about this being your last football game? I'm like, well, I feel like I might get drafted. I had a pretty good career, and so it was pretty amazing. The first 2 days of the draft, you're sitting there like, I knew it wasn't going to come down to that. And then, day 3 comes around and you start seeing guys getting picked. You start getting a lot of phone calls. Like, people are trying to secure you after the draft, too. It's like the 49ers had called me and the Bengals were kind of talking. So some other teams were getting interested, and that's kind of how I know my agent leveraged a position where he was like, I had told New England after, I was like, hey, if you guys are there, because I knew they had 2 quarterbacks and it was an opportunity I wanted to pursue. They were like, hey, do you want to come to us if we don't draft you? I was like, yeah, I'll go there. And then it got to a point where another team was going to take me. And so Joe called him up, my agent, and he was like, if you don't take this kid, you're not going to get him. So they obviously used the next pick, and I got the call from Bill, and that was a surreal moment. That was pretty cool to have that moment and being drafted and talking to Bill Belichick. And I had my family there, and it was ecstatic.
Okay, so I remember I flew out to your first training camp, and I remember asking Bill Belichick, what do you think of Danny Etling? And, I had all this Boston media like, who's this guy from Terre Haute asking a question here? And they're like, good luck getting him to answer. And lo and behold, he gives me like a 15, 20-second soundbite how much he loves you and your work ethic. So clearly you made an impact on him. What was your relationship like with Coach Belichick?
First of all, it's a very impressive resume builder. If you got Bill to answer anything past 15, 20 seconds, especially about a rookie, he'd be like, we'll find out. He hasn't done anything yet. Never played in the game. That's a Bill answer. So that's impressive to get that. I honestly learned a ton that year. I am very thankful to be drafted by the Patriots. And Bill, for being a very defensive backgrounded head coach, he spent a lot of time with the quarterbacks. We would have a quarterback meeting where we would talk about all the position. He would have an entire meeting where we would talk about every single player on the defense and what their weaknesses were, what their strengths were. And teaching me how to prepare for an NFL opponent that way was really something that gave me a great cornerstone for my career. So when I went to other teams, I was able to just carry that with me and just continue to get better. And I have plenty of stories from those meetings where it was if you could be a fly on the wall and have a video camera and see what these guys are talking about and how they act with each other, it was nothing like what the media portrayed, and being in that relationship with Bill and how much it kind of just is a great teacher of football. Despite his maybe public demeanor, it was a dream come true for sure.
Well, I know you're great at, keeping stuff to yourself, so you probably won't share what was going on in those rooms. But enlighten us, how is Coach Belichick when the cameras aren't? Is he a funny guy? Does he ask how you're doing? How is he?
He's probably not going to ask how you're doing, but he is a very funny guy. He has a great sense of humor. He cares a lot more about the players than you probably he lets on, because he realizes how hard he works you and how much you're giving up your body, how it has to be a team. You don't just build a great dynasty and a great team without being a great leader, and that's something I think he just always had a great kind of feel on. But yeah, in those meetings, just the high level ball that was being talked about was something where I was kind of young, so I wasn't able to rattle off in my brain the way Tim and Tom and Brian were talking all the time. I was kind of oh shoot, I kind of would lose them for a second because they'd be having some technical jargon about a defensive structure. And I remember he would pull up some clips, because he would have old clips all the time. He'd be pulling up clips of me playing receiver on scout team, look at this guy making plays, just having a good time with it, because he just had a fun cut up. And he had we were playing against the Chiefs, and he had they played this front structure with their defensive line. They had everyone across, and then they would play a choke on Rob Gronkowski. So they played the defensive end outside, and they played Rob with a safety right over top, within a yard. And he had seen something in the 1980s where what they did was they took the left tackle and they blocked Rob's guy, and he went under the left tackle and scored a touchdown. Well, anyway, I've never seen this front before. And he pulls up this 1980s grainy film, and he's like, Danny, what front is this? And I can't see anything, but I don't want to be I answer as confident as possible. Oh, that's an under Tom front. And he looks at me, looks at the screen, looks back at me. Tom Brady looks at me, looks at the screen, looks back at me. Brian, everyone's looking, and they're like, yeah, that's a jam with a choke, right? I said, oh yeah. Jam with a choke. And they all made fun of me for that one for a little bit. So yeah, but then as I learned it, it was such, able to learn those things and having that, they all had a good sense of humor about it. And, but then the play actually worked. We ran it against the Chiefs, and in the fourth quarter, and we got a big play out of it.
Was that which game?
That was not against that was earlier in the regular season.
Okay.
Regular season game.
I went to Kansas City because I was in Missouri at the time. I was with his dad to watch them.
Yeah.
In the
AFC Championship, High Road.
Freezing.
You know where Kansas City puts you up in the.
Oh yeah.
It was freezing. Everybody had cardboard on the bottom of their feet. And I'm like, what are we doing? I found out quickly.
Yeah, freeze your toes.
So you mentioned Belichick. I got to ask you, Dan, behind the scenes, Tom, how was your relationship with him? What was it like to hang with the GOAT? What was that like?
He's an excellent teammate. It's he'll remember players that he played with 18 years ago. He'll remember their names. He'll remember about them. He'll remember if he liked the way they ran routes, they didn't like. And then his recall was really special to be around, because he had me make cut up tapes for him. It was he all the coaches would give you a job as a third quarterback because they wanted to make sure you were still involved in the game plan. Well, he had me kind of making this cut up for him about explosive plays from around the league, and it really helped me learn a lot. But after we'd finished our meeting with Bill, I would then meet with Tom for about 30 minutes, and I would show him the clips, hey, I like this play, this was good, I thought this was interesting, and then Tom would be like, oh, we used to run this, and then he would pull up and start talking about old plays he would run, and we used to motion West out of the backfield, and we'd get in the slot, and that would get this matchup, and then I was able to learn a ton from him. So I started to make the tapes a little bit longer, so I could get a little more time. So suddenly the tapes for an hour, and we'd have this meeting with Bill for an hour, and then Tom would be like, all right, you got that tape, and I'd pull up the tape I made, and then he'd be like, how many clips are on this tape? It's taking a long time. I said, oh, there were a lot of big plays. Anyway, he'd be like, didn't we already watch this one? So I made it a little bit longer because it was such a fun, valuable time. And then Tom, again, he remembers you. I saw him when we played against Tampa Bay when I was at the Packers 5 years later, and I'm warming up on the field, and he's like, Danny Etling, and we talked for a brief little couple minutes, and it's a testament to him. When I was released, he sent me a very nice text, just about my time there and being thankful, and being at high status as he is, that means a lot. Mm-hmm. I think he's a great teammate for that reason.
Lindsey, I had to ask you, you bring a different perspective than Danny. Coming out of high school, you were the number one quarterback in Louisiana, one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. A lot of kids these days would love to be in your shoes. Talk about how you were recruited. And I heard you telling kids earlier today when you were talking to them a very interesting perspective, because a lot of kids miss this, and parents do as well. You don't have to go to the biggest school anymore to make an impact or for your career to further go along.
Yeah, so my recruitment started off a little slow. My first offer was Arkansas State, kind of the end of my junior year, and then it kind of started to snowball. But the smaller schools kind of had interest a little earlier. And then LSU, I was on a visit to Maryland at the time. They had been talking to me for a good minute. I was about to commit to Maryland after that visit. Got a call from Les Miles and Cam Cameron, who kind of convinced me to come on an official visit. I ended up committing to them. And I'll never say that I want to go do anything differently, because if I never went to LSU, I'd never be in the seat right now, because I never would have met Danny. But if I had, a little brother or, a friend that was advising, if there's a school where you feel like you're going to go and get more reps, more film right then and there, that's probably a little bit better than, the bigger school that maybe you have to wait a little bit longer, might not get an opportunity at all. Because now as a college football coach, I've seen it from behind the lines. There isn't really anywhere you can go in the country where if you're playing well at a high level that, those bigger schools aren't going to find you. Like I told the kids earlier, we have a whole recruiting wing that has 6 to 8 guys, I think it's 7 of them total, and their job is to watch film all day. They're basically kind of like the general GM side of the NFL teams. They're watching films. If the transfer portal's open, we're watching every transfer portal guy. If it's closed, we're watching every high school and JUCO guy. So the biggest thing, just find somewhere where you love, find somewhere where they do a hard job of recruiting you, and get on the film, because you're not going to be the same player you were at 17 in high school, where you were at 20 or 21 in college, where you might be able to take that chance and transfer somewhere else to a bigger school. So just go somewhere and get some film, meaningful reps, and continue to develop.
Great advice. I can say that as a parent. Just a great advice to the way the world is right now. I want to thank our sponsors, Crow Equipment Incorporated, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates, and Andrew Heating and Air Conditioning. And also remember the new ways you can follow Beyond the Stands on Spotify, CastBox, Pocket Cast, and iHeartRadio. Lindsey, again, you played at LSU. You transferred out of there. You ended up at the FCS level, and you set the single-season record for touchdown passes. Was it 60? Is that correct?
60 pass and 11 rushing.
11 rushing.
71 touchdowns in a year.
And it's still
in a year.
Still holds to this day. Is that something special to you?
Oh, for sure. You talk about leaving your mark on the game. I hope someone, a great player comes by and breaks it one day. But for now, I can, probably say that I hold that record. There's a lot of perseverance, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of nights of studying the game plan that went into that. So, and also a lot of people that kind of helped me out. I wasn't out there blocking and throwing the passes and catching them, So I had amazing teammates, amazing coaches that were dialing up plays. So it's definitely something that's special to me. I hope it holds for a little bit longer, so I can continue to say it.
So obviously you were a great player, and I mentioned at the very beginning you're a coach now. You're the assistant quarterback coach at Texas Tech. How has that transition been? I know it's hard for some guys from being the player to coaching. How's that going for you?
It's been really smooth. I've got a great support staff, great friends and family that continuously kind of check in on me, make sure I'm doing all right. My dad, he'll ask me, he's like, "You sure you don't have the itch to play anymore?" And I think the biggest thing that's helped me is that I've always been in the field of mentoring, and I get to kind of mix those two things with football and being able to coach. And half the times, we start these quarterback meetings off, and the OC's in there, and we kind of just shoot the stick around a little bit and just kind of talk about everybody's day. We'll talk about things that are going on, and you build close relationships, so it transcends the game of football. And the fact that I'm still working in football kind of helps a lot too. Like I go out of practice, sling the ball around, run a little bit, lift some weights. So the transition has been smooth. I'm excited for the season. We're gonna go out there and win the Big 12, have a good year, get into the playoffs, and then make something shake from there. So it's been great.
I like it. I like the confidence there. Could you coach a Danny Etling?
Could I coach Danny Etling?
Yeah.
I mean, you give me 11 Danny Etlings, I'll bring you back a championship.
we might miss some tackles.
I love it. Okay, so Danny, you've been in the UFL the last couple of years. Had not a bad season this past year, the 5 touchdown passes. Just talk about where your football career is right now. I mentioned you're 30. Talk about your season. How much more do you believe you have left in the football tank?
Yeah, It depends on obviously the opportunities that present themselves. I've gotten some good film the past 2 years with the UFL, and those were really fun to play. Had to play through some injuries, which wasn't so fun. But I really liked the age 30 though, and I saw that the Saints' new head coach Hillmore had a good quote about it, where 30 is a really interesting time for a quarterback because they're at the prime of their athletic time. You still feel really good, and you're actually in as good a shape as you've ever been, and your mind is at a phase where you've been processing the game now for about 7 years at a pro level, where stuff is really easy. A game plan is really easy to learn. It's really easy to process. You remember everything. You recognize defenses. Your spatial awareness is really good. So I'm at a weird phase where I feel like I'm in as good a shape as I've ever been physically, and also mentally. I really slowed the game down for myself. So, you don't really want to hang it up and start something different. But there is I would love to coach when I'm done. I really enjoy it. And there could be some opportunities that might present themselves in that sense where, depending on what opportunities present themselves in the next, few weeks here before camps start, that might make the decision for me, and I can, go and have it with peace.
You speak of being 30 and relaxed and all this. People that don't know, you're married with a young child, 6-month-old child. How has fatherhood maybe changed you and maybe changed your football perspective?
I would say for sure even just being married at first was amazing. I mean, I couldn't do all the moving around and doing everything I've been doing without the supportive wife that I have. It's the people you choose to marry that's the biggest decision you can make. And who you choose to have children with is even bigger decision. So it's just I couldn't be luckier to have such an amazing wife to help me move around the country and to be so flexible that she can move around the country with me. And now that we have our daughter, she went down to Texas with me for the whole UFL season and raised our daughter there. And with minimal help, it's not easy to obviously raise a daughter when your husband's traveling every weekend and has to work and get hit every single, doesn't physically feel great, I'm sure. So, it changes your outlook a little bit. Everything feels just, football is a lot more, third or second than family, or third, I guess, family, faith, and football. It's a distant third now. It's family and faith is way out there, and they're football is amazing, and you're thankful for it, but it changes you.
I got one question for each of these guys. I got to get them out of here. They got a busy schedule. We'll be leaving town tomorrow, so I appreciate the time I get them. Start with you, Lindsey. Just talk about. You come from a football state, and this is a basketball state. You were impressed with what you've seen basketball-wise here.
Yeah, we walked through the gym, and, nice gym. You got the Hall of Fame jerseys hung up on the top row. I don't even call it the second level. They have even more stadiums that come down. So he was kind of telling me, giving me the rundown of the basketball stadium. And it's a little different in Louisiana. We have our basketball schools, but not every school has a gym like that. So, and then you were telling me there was one. How much is it?
The Hatchet House seats 7,100 where the Zellers played.
Insane. That's crazy. So I was saying I want to get out here and catch a high school basketball game because I'm sure they're pretty electric. So I would have not done well in this state with my basketball skill, but I'm a great spectator. So
we had him cheering for the Pacers too.
The Pacers.
He was
too,
all for the Pacers.
I was cheering for the Pacers. My heart was a little hurt for Halliburton, but it was some good basketball to watch.
Love it. Well, what you need to do is have Danny this winter bring you back here to Indiana. If I need to, I'll take you down to the Hatchet House. I've covered 1 million games there. You'll be absolutely shocked.
Yeah, you can count me in for that one.
Hatchet House is a fun time.
And then Danny, with you, I got to finish. I asked you at the beginning, but just Terre Haute, whether it's been good or bad for you during your football career, one thing you always say, and you've said it in interviews with national media, I'm from Terre Haute. I'm proud to be from Terre Haute. Just what does it mean to you, even though you've made it to the SEC, you've made it in the NFL, just to be from Terre Haute, Indiana?
Yeah, especially when you have a career like me, you have a lot of different homes, but you only have one hometown. So, and that hometown is the one that created you and built you up and, loved you up when you weren't doing anything. And this community has been tremendous to me. And I can, sit here for hours and thank 1 million people throughout this community that have done so much for me throughout my career and just throughout me as being a person and growing as a man. So, this is my hometown, and there's so much to love about it, and there's so much to try to give back that I want to be the one now trying to give back to the kids and have some more pride in where they're from in Terre Haute. And I I think that's my main goal, especially with doing this, and as I continue to grow in my own career and as a man, that's my kind of ultimate goal is, give more people that same feeling that I got. So that's it.
Well, I appreciate both of you joining me. I know your schedules are really busy. Great to see you guys. I always appreciate you having in town, and I appreciate the camp. It was good seeing everything going on out there today, and hopefully maybe do this again next year. So that does it for this edition of Beyond the Stands. Remember, you can follow it on Spotify, CastBox, Pocket Cast, and iHeartRadio, and always on mywabashvalley.com. That does it for this edition of Beyond the Stands.
WTWO's Beyond the Stands podcast is brought to you by Crow Equipment, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates. Catch this episode again and more of Rick's interviews online at mywabashvalley.com.